Welcome, beautiful, to the Creating Change podcast with Emma Bradford. Creating change to fall back in love with ourselves and life. Each episode, I'll be offering insightful stories, concepts, and practical takeaways to inspire your day, reconnecting to the authentic essence within. Are you ready, lovely, to embrace yourself even more and awaken to the magic life has to offer? Let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Change with Emma Bradford. Thank you so much for being here and for choosing this episode to listen to. Thank you so much. Now, self-care is a term that is often thrown around a lot in the self-awareness industry, self-love, self-care, and I wanted to dive into this a little bit more just to talk about what is it really and how can we generate a little more self-tenderness and what are the benefits of doing that and how we can make it easier. Sometimes there can be resistance popping up and we have good intentions or we have this desire to want to care for ourselves, love ourselves a little bit more, yet we always seem to fall back into self-sabotaging patterns. So this is something I wanted to talk about today and explore this. How can we generate a little bit more self-tenderness with ourselves and do that in an easy way, a fun way? Now, I remember reading a definition about self-love and self-care by Peter Kelly. She has written many books and she was talking about how self-love is receiving and self-care is the actions, the beliefs, the boundaries, and listening to what we need in any given moment. So self-care is what we're actually doing or how we're living. And self-love is allowing ourselves to receive that. So, for example, self-care could be creating a wonderful bubble bath or giving ourselves a massage. And self-love is allowing ourselves to receive that, actually be present in that. We can have a massage and still be caught up in the thoughts and the beliefs and inner critic sayings of like, oh, I still got this to do, or focusing on the to-do list, or shaming ourselves, or judging ourselves, or blaming ourselves. So self-love is allowing ourselves to actually receive that massage, be open to receiving, and self-care is the actual action, or the belief, or the boundary, or whatever is there in place. Now, often when it comes to self-care and self-love, there's this tendency to look at it as if we need to get it perfect, that we need to be loving to ourselves all the time, that we need to do everything perfectly, that we need to have a wonderful self-care routine or practice every single day. And we place a lot of pressure on ourselves. This is what I've noticed through my own journey with this and also with clients, noticing clients and students. Sometimes there's this tendency to view things as if we need to do that like that all the time, or that it's some destination to get to. And when we get there, we're like that all the time. And this is not the case. This is the thing. In life, is all about balance. It's this constant remembering, returning, remembering. There may be times where we forget and then we remember. There may be times where we do things completely imperfectly and then we remember, we come back. Bring this gentleness, this tenderness. Tenderness is this present, loving present energy, this tenderness. It's like, oh, I'm doing things completely rubbish today and that's okay. I'm doing things completely imperfectly today, and that's okay. I'm doing things not how I expected to do things, or not how my mind wanted to do things, and that's okay. Adding "and that's okay" onto the end can be really useful in the beginning to help ourselves have a little more grace and tenderness towards ourselves and just be accepting of what is in the moment. It's like, oh, I've forgotten to do the practice, or I've forgotten to do meditation, or I've forgotten to go for a walk, or I've forgotten whatever it is. And that's okay. Just for that moment, just be with what is. And then notice, okay, what do you want to continue from now on? What do you choose to prioritize from now on? What do you choose to value from now on? What's important? Like, what results do you want out of this? Because the more we can bring this loving tenderness to ourselves, the more we're able to show up with this loving tenderness to other people as well. The more we feel good in ourselves, that we feel we have a greater sense of self-worth, confidence, our sense of well-being goes up, the more we're bringing this tenderness to ourselves. It can have a direct impact on our relationships, on our career, on our work, on our health, well-being, all areas. This is why self-love and self-care is so important. And if self-love feels like such a massive thing, so far away, that it's like, oh, I have no idea how I'm going to love myself. Sometimes it can feel so far away that the first step is simply just bring this acceptance to where things are currently, like I said, and that's okay. We don't need to go from 0 to 100 straight away. First, perhaps, let's just begin with tolerating ourselves. As one of my dance teachers, Willemijn de Dreu, she would say, tolerance, like sometimes self-love can be such a massive thing that people can't even comprehend how they can love themselves. First, start with tolerance. How can I tolerate myself a little bit more? How can I be a little more accepting of myself? Just bring that tenderness. Now, you may have heard of the 5 love languages in terms of relationships, that some people love to give love with gifts. Some people love to give love in terms of physical touch, through hugs, massages. Some people love to show their love and give love in terms of words of affirmation, positive words to loved ones. Other people love to give love in terms of quality time, like spending quality time with people. And some people love to give love through acts of service, serving others, giving to others, being of service. Now, we can all have preferences in terms of how we give love, and we also have preferences in how we receive love. How do you like to receive love from others? Do you love physical touch? Do you love words? Do you love quality time? Do you love gifts? Or do you like people doing things for you, like helping you out? Notice what feels good for you and what you prefer. This can give an indication of a gateway in how to generate even more self-care and self-love towards yourself. Because not only can this be how we give and receive love with others, it can also be about how we give and receive love to ourselves. For example, if someone loves to give in terms of physical touch, then through using physical touch in terms of self-care, for example, foot massage, giving ourselves a foot massage can be a wonderful way to start entering the world of a little bit more self-care towards ourselves. Or if someone loves to give love through words of affirmation, loves to receive words of affirmation, then that can be the gateway in how we give more self-love to ourselves. So adding a little notification on our mobile phone to pop up every now and again with a wonderful positive phrase about ourselves, or sticking a post-it note somewhere where we see it, or our alarm clock as well. You can also record yourself on your phone and have that come up as your alarm clock, saying positive affirmations about yourself. This is a wonderful act of self-care and self-love. And you can get creative with this. There are so many different ways that we can care for ourselves, that we can show a little bit more love, loving presence and tenderness with ourselves. Again, this is not about perfection. This is not about getting to this ultimate endpoint where we're always loving ourselves, always feeling good, and we stay like that forever. No, life has these constant ups and downs. There may be moments where we feel good, moments where we don't feel so good. It's all about returning back to the heart. How can I bring a little more tenderness to myself right now? How can I bring a little bit more loving presence to myself right now? Through actions, through the words that we use, through saying no, times where we really want to say no rather than just people pleasing. There are so many different ways. So just pick one way, one aspect where you think, okay, I could increase that a little bit more, or I could explore that a little bit more, how to bring some loving tenderness to yourself, and notice what shifts as you do that. How do you feel different? How do you interact differently with other people? How do you feel differently about life when you do this? In NLP, we talk about the representational systems. So some people can be very kinesthetic. They're very in tune with feelings, sensations. Some people can be very visual, that they really notice colors and what's going on visually. Other people can be very auditory, that they really notice sounds and what they're hearing. This can also be brought into our relationship with ourselves, how we love ourselves and how we care about ourselves. Obviously, these representational systems are not set in stone and they can change and transform. Though if there's one that you're noticing at the moment that you feel particularly drawn to or you notice is easier than others, for example, if you really notice sounds and sounds are very important for you, then use that as a gateway. How can I use that as a way to generate even more self-love and care towards myself? For example, it could be an audio, like I mentioned on the mobile phone, like bringing up affirmations, or it could be listening to some music that helps you feel inspired and loved. There are so many different ways. The most important thing is the intention. What's the intention? What's the energy behind the actions? Because we can give ourselves a massage, we can have a bubble bath, we can cook ourselves a nice meal, but we can go about it really grumpily, moodily, feeling rubbish about ourselves, complaining negatively, or we can do it with love and have that intention to really open up to being a little bit more tender with ourselves, opening up to receiving, being present, connecting to that present moment. This is a huge topic. And again, it's not about perfection. Simply just being with what is and simply just noticing bad habits or things that we don't like about ourselves and saying to ourselves, and that's okay. Right now, that's okay. That can be one of the most loving things that we do. I'd love to hear your shares on this. Please do connect with me on social media. You can join the Telegram group as well. There's the option to chat with me there. And I'd love to hear your shares on how you're generating a little more tenderness, loving presence with yourself, and what self-care practices you're choosing. There can be so many things. And it can be something really small. Perhaps when you wake up in the morning, you say to yourself, I'm here. Or when you look at yourself in the mirror, you say to yourself, I see you. Or when you notice an unhelpful habit popping up, you say to yourself, and that's okay. I can choose to make a difference. I can create change. Yet right now, I'm just choosing to accept what is. Often when we bring a more loving awareness to ourselves, then we don't feel called to carry out those unhelpful habits anyway, because often those unhelpful habits are stemmed from a lack of connection, a lack of love on some level. So the more love we bring to ourselves, the more tenderness we bring to ourselves, the more connection we create with ourselves, the less those unhelpful habits will carry out also. And the inner critic can have a field day with all of this. Sometimes the inner critic is there saying, oh, I should do this, I should do that, I have to do it like this, I must do it like this, I need to do this, or you're like this, you're like that, I am this, I am that, however we talk to ourselves. There's one really simple technique in NLP, the de-identification pattern, and it helps us to break away from any limiting beliefs about ourselves in terms of the I am statements. So, for example, I am rubbish, I am not worthy, I am ugly, I am stupid, whatever that I am statement is from the inner critic, we simply ask ourselves afterwards, is that all that I really am? Aren't I more than that? What am I that's not ugly or what's not stupid? And it just helps us to switch the focus and look at what else we are, because often when we're seeing things through a limited lens, we're only looking at one thing and we're forgetting the bigger picture, that actually at our very core, we are so expansive. We are limitless. We are so expansive that the human mind cannot even comprehend how immense we are. We are this life energy that's moving through us. We, at our very core, are this life energy that's animating our personality. We are not just our personality. We are not just our physical body. We are what is animating that. So bringing the focus back to that can help us see ourselves through another lens and create even more self-love and self-care. Simply recognizing that we are on this, sometimes what seems like a very crazy planet, and there are so many challenges and things that we're navigating, not only personally, but also globally. To simply just be here on the planet during this time takes such a courageous soul. So noticing that you're still here, you're still standing, you're still here on this planet, walking this path with so many others. You are such a courageous soul, and you're walking with so many others. We're all in this together. Seeing it from that perspective can help us have a little more tenderness towards ourselves and think, gosh, wow, I'm actually a lot more resilient. I'm actually a lot stronger. I'm actually a lot braver and more courageous than perhaps I first thought. So how are you going to show self-love and care to yourself today? How are you going to bring in a little more tenderness to yourself today? I'd love to hear. Do get in contact, and please share this episode with anyone that you think would find this useful. Every share makes such a difference, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Lots of love. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, beautiful. You're amazing. All resources and links can be found on my website, www.emmabradford.net. Link is in the show description. Do come and join my community and share your takeaways from this episode. I'd really love to hear. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time, I wonder, what magic will you experience in life today?